Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2018 Cell and Gene meeting on the Mesa. We're going to start off this morning with our first workshop, Doing Business in Japan. We're pleased to be partnering again with our friends from Japan, the Forum for Innovative Regenerative Medicine. Our first speaker is going to be their chairman, Yuzo Toda, but before he comes up, I'm going to invite Kunihiko Suzuki, the vice chairman of FIRM, to come up and sort of lay out the day for everybody.
Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to join us very early in the morning session. And the first session, we are very honored to be here and invite all the important guests. And today's our session is doing business in Japan. This is several times we made a consecutive in the sessions in the past, and explaining about the Japanese regulatory issue and also the business issue. And today, at first, our chairman, Dr. Toda, will make a short remarks to you, and then we will have the three guests from the government. One is from Ministry of Economy, and one is the Ministry of Health, and also the PMDA, regulatory bodies for the product development, and also the three guests from, say, non-Japanese companies who has a relationship with a new sort of designations. The detail will be explained by the government officials. And lastly, our another vice chairman, Dr. Shitaka, will make a wrap-up for you. And anyway, we are quite happy to see you here. Okay, Dr. Toda, please.
I will do this. Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here and also very welcome in this Japanese session. Today I found a very big bag when I registered, but as you know, last year the bag is very small. This year such a big one. This is very, very typical. It is a kind of one of the phenomena of our regenerative medicine industry. So today's agenda, our Vice Chairman Suzuki-san already mentioned a bit, that the agenda is well considered to prepare, because as you know, regenerative medicine and cell therapy is still very, very new technology and industry. So in that sense, we need kind of real collaboration and real kind of harmonization from academia, industry, and government, regulatory body. So this cell therapy and regenerative medicine is really, really remarkable and promising therapy medication system, but we have to consider how to collaborate social system, regulatory system, and technology and industry. So in that sense, also this is very typical inside big bottle, but still empty. So how do we fill? So next year we have to fill in. coming here and also be cool. So that that is my just brief remark, and I hope you can enjoy this meeting. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Toda. And first speaker from the our government, and the Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industries, Mr. Masahiro Uemura. He will make some presentation about the Japanese the regulatory issues and also the commercialization issues, industrialization issues for you. Maybe you will get a good information from him. Okay, please.
Thank you very much, Suzuki-san, for my introduction. Good morning. I'm glad to be here, and also I'd like to thank you all for coming to the Japan session. I believe that Japan is a very attractive investment target for regenerative medicine. And Japan and its industries and universities will definitely become good partners for you, I think. Okay. So first of all, I'd like to show you the image of the Japanese market. So currently, medical and caring treatment cost in Japan is about $500 billion US. Towards the super aging society in Japan, this trend will continue. And as a pharmaceutical sector market, as you know, Japan is the second largest single market in the world.
Do you have this one yet?
And regarding the regenerative medicine, these graphs show the estimated market sizes of regenerative medicine in Japan and global. Regenerative medicine is one of the most important industries in Japan. So many experts stated that market of regenerative medicine would grow rapidly. To better understand the size of the opportunity, MEDI, my ministry, economy, developed market projections for regenerative medicine, products and services. These estimates are based on the combination of interviews with experts in regenerative medicine and relevant research. Japanese market size will be $10 billion US in 2030, and lastly, it's estimated to become $25 billion US in 2050. The world market size is also expected to grow fast. It's estimated to expand up to $380 billion US by 2050. In order to realize these numbers, Japanese government would like to promise to continue to support everyone, every company and every institute working in this field of regenerative medicine, which work within Japanese market or with Japanese companies or universities. And regarding science and technology, I think Japan is top level. As you know, this year's Nobel Prizes has gone to Dr. Allison and Dr. Honjo. The latter person, Dr. Honjo, is a special professor of Kyoto University in Japan. And as you can see in this slide, regarding the distribution of Nobel laureates in Japan, it is broadly allocated through Japan. So I think companies could cooperate with excellent scientists in Japan. In Japan, not only Nobel laureates, but there are many academics and companies which have excellent basic skills, applied technologies, and manufacturing. If you invest to Japan, there will be many opportunities to collaborate or work together with such eminent players. As an image, for instance, robot biology would be expected in terms of efficacy, cost competitiveness, and data accumulation for commercialization of regenerative medicine. For example, humanoid type robot has various merits such as easy to utilize same equipment actually human being using. For that, the setting up the equipment dedicated or customized for a robot is not needed, and the cost will be saved. And also, robot can work 24 hours, 7 days without any complaint. Furthermore, it would be possible to accumulate data not only experimental outputs, but also experimental protocols, which would be beneficial for designing better experimental plans and controlling the quality of experiments as well. And for encouraging the innovation in the field of regenerative medicine, regulatory or implemental issues would be also critical. The Japanese government has set some national strategies, strategic special zones which attract medical companies within or without Japan. One is in the eastern region, such as Tokyo, Kanagawa, and Tsukuba. The other is western region, such as Osaka, Kyoto, Kobe, and also including Okinawa, the southern part of Japan. In these areas, the Japanese government grants special treatment to companies, such as taxes and regulations related incentives. And the Japanese government has introduced regenerative medicine-friendly legislation as a forerunner. The conditional and time-limited authorization scheme for provisionally early approving of regenerative medicine products before phase 3 of clinical trials. I think my colleagues might talk about more detail about this and its good effect. In addition to the strong market and excellent technologies and science, I think innovative regulation scheme would be a strong point in Japan. When we talk about regenerative medicine, we tend to focus too much on products such as skin, retina, and cardiac cell seeds. However, it's certain that producing high-quality regenerative medicine calls for a lot of advanced technologies. Regenerative medicine starts from cells harvested from the human body, then moves to culturing, cell processing, large quantity culturing, testing, and delivering to patients. Good cell processing equipment, incubators, culturing devices, and cell assessment technologies are needed to create high-quality regenerative medical products. And also high-quality reagent mediums are also mandatory. Surrounding this cycle and for rotating this cycle effective, various supporting industries will be required. Of course, there are excellent suppliers and service providers in Japan. But to speed up and reducing the cost of regenerative medicine for the awaiting patients in Japan, we Japan would like to encourage collaboration among those companies to deliver innovative new therapeutic products, methods, devices, and tools. So in order to rotate this cycle much more effectively, we Japan would like to work together, talented entrepreneurs and companies from all over the world. From this point of view, the Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO, which is deeply related to my Ministry of Economy, provides promotion measures for international trade, investment, and collaboration. So I'd like to introduce some supporting measures for companies interested in working with us, Japan. IBSC, Investment Japan Business Support Center, is a one-stop center for your business. IBSCs are located in major 6 big cities, including Tokyo, in Japan. They offer various kinds of support to your company, such as a temporary office, free of charge up to 50 business days, free legal, tax, labor, visa consultations, and introduction of various services such as real estate and recruitment companies. Moreover, in the world, from the outside of Japan, JETRO is working for companies which are interested in working together with Japanese companies. JETRO sends out information related to investment in Japan to each local startups in the world, such as market reports or incentives by the Japanese government and JETRO. JETRO's Investment Japan Support Scheme is a strong support tool for local startups anywhere in the world, which are interested in expanding their businesses in Japan. All JETRO offices in the world strongly support their businesses in collaboration with my ministry, METI. With regard to the field of regenerative medicine, definitely the firm is a very important hub as well for services to foreign companies, helping to find out Japanese partners for promoting R&D and commercialization of regenerative medicine. This slide shows the details of the JETRO Global Acceleration Hub supporting measures. It promotes business collaboration between Japan and world-leading startups ecosystems by doing these activities under the tie-up with the startup accelerators or venture incubation center in the ecosystem. For example, collaborating with CIC, Cambridge Innovation Center in Boston, JETRO is supporting overseas establishment of Japanese startups and also supporting overseas startups who want to set up businesses in Japan. This slide shows the track record of JETRO supporting activities to foreign or foreign affiliated companies for 23 to 2016. In total, JETRO has supported about 16,000 projects and about 10%, 1,600 projects have been resulted to successful startups and business expansion. And this slide shows examples of collaboration between overseas companies and Japanese companies. To find good partners is one of the most efficient and effective way to start and develop businesses in Japan. Replicell succeeded in licensing agreement with Shiseido, which is #1 cosmetic company in Japan, and Fujifilm acquired CDI aimed at improving IPS cell manufacturing. Londa cooperated with Nikon, which is famous for optical instruments. Regarding the setting up business in Japan, for example, Aegis Biotherapeutics, which is a US biotech company developing gene therapy, has established the joint ventures, so-called Aegis JETRO Japan, together with the Gene Therapy Research Institute, JETRO, which is a Japanese biotech company. In February 2017, Aegis JETRO Japan established its R&D center for gene therapy drug in Kawasaki, Japan. For this deal, JETRO has, For this deal, JETRO has done the followings. JETRO supports consulted the establishment of the joint venture, introduced administrative procedures specialists, and provided the information on subsidies, and arranged meetings with the Kanagawa prefectural government. We Japan is strongly expecting that more companies start their businesses in Japan. So-called Invest Japan policy is one of the top priority policies in Japan. Okay, so we Japan have the second largest market, good academics and industries, and innovative regulation. But we Japan now faces social challenges under the super high aging society. But it's also the opportunity for innovation. So we Japan really want you ambitious innovators to have an interest in Japan and to work together with us for solving our common social challenges and to extend the outcome to all over the world. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please ask or email to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uemura. And then I will introduce the next speakers. Dr. Kiyohito Nakai. He's a director of the Medical Device Evaluation Division of Pharmaceutical Safety and Environmental Health Bureau, it's long, and the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. He will explain about the regulatory issues of Japan. Please, Dr. Nakai.
Thank you very much for introducing me. Before I start, I have to ask my friend, Mr. Mariaba, taking a picture and make me cool. I have to bring it to my home and show my kids. Anyway, so I'm the director of the Medical Device Evaluation, but we are also in charge for the Regenerative Medicine. Of course, I'm very concentrated to the Regenerative Medicine, you know. If I standing in front of the medical device industry, I still say I'm in charge for the regenerative medicine, right? Okay, so First of all, I would like to introduce the report from advisory panel for promotion of the medical ventures. It's out like this. So this is showing a guiding principles for promotion of policy of medical ventures. So this in the report we have the three principles. One is from regulation to the development. Second one from carefully to speedy, and third one is from macro to micro. I'd like to. I'm very rarely like the third one. So we are the regulator. We should consider the regulation might be the macro to micro perspectives. I think our regulator always thinks the regulation is like systems, whole system. But I think it's very important thing. But however, I think regulator also should consider the regulation as a method for the evaluation, safety and efficacy for the particular product. For each product, we have to make the method for the evaluate the efficacy and safety for the particular products. I think each regenerative medicine have the different character or unique character. So we have to consider the optimization of the regulatory science of each product. It's not deregulation. I have to enhance it. It's not deregulation. I have to it is the optimization of the regulation for the evaluating the safety and efficacy for each products. I'd like to introducing the conditional and time-limited approval. That is sometimes praised and sometimes criticized. This is a slide for the conditional and time-limited approval. It allows the product approval with a small clinical data, which is able to predict the clinical benefit before complete world clinical trials. So under the new regulation, we have the two products have been approved. One is a stem cell product for GVHD, and second one is a cell sheet for ischemic heart disease. This one is using the conditional and time-limited approval system, which is took less than 12 months in the review processes. This slide shows the reimbursement for the prices to approved products. The BM delivered MSC was applied with drug pricing systems. It's like or it's almost the $114,000. And second one is myobras cell sheet was applied with medical device pricing rule. It's almost the $115,000. So currently, we don't have the pricing rule for the regenerative medicine because we have only for approved product, that's all. So we need more and more regenerative medicine. Then we can establish the regenerative medicine pricing rule. Here, I would like to into the systems for enhancing the research and development regenerative medicines. Sakigake Designation System is for support the world's first product currently developed with high expectations for the Japanese patients. We had already have some accelerated review schemes, such as the priority review and orphan drug designation. However, so this Sakigake slide is further promotion system for development of the regenerative medicine in Japan. So we have the criteria is three, prominent of the effectiveness and big medical needs, technological innovations. World expecting the first submission for Japan in the world. The Sakigake designation system have 5 advantages. It's a 5 advantage. So prioritized review is review time is under the half year. So, and I would like to enhancing this one. Review partner. As a review partner in the PMDA, as a concierge. The concierge service is very appreciated from the small company or the academia person. I think this is one of the examples for the macro to micro. So I already mentioned it. PMD review partner are always thinking about the regulation with the company and optimization of the regulation for the good efficacy and safety in peach products. For Sakigake designation until today, we have the nine products already designated. So I would like to show the current development of the regenerative medicine products in Japan. Here is a list of the regenerative products developing in Japan. We have the already whole approved products, but this is it's just developing. We made this list from public data. I mean, I know the much more products is developing in Japan, but I cannot explain here because there's a secret program. So anyway, so we are searching the internet and making it the public data. So as you may see, so many different products and unique regenerative products, and also you can see that this is from the academia series. So the next slide is here. Since the implementation of the regulatory reform, the R&D of regenerative medicine has been dramatically activated. I think these rights are enhanced from the effort of promoting systems such as the conditional and time limited approval and Sakigake designation systems. But furthermore, I would like to ask you to the very welcome to research and development in Japan. This is for the gene therapy products developing in Japan. We also have the variety developing the gene therapy products in Japan from the academia seeds or so many products. I would like to establish the consensus among the Japanese Society of Regenerative Medicine and our ministry and PMDA. It's very busy slide, I'm sorry. But it's very important slide for regenerative medicine. We have made a consensus, developing the regenerative medicine with a conditional and limited term approval. So major points are the post-marketing systems and appropriate use of criteria and establishing a registry. I think it means teamwork with academic society and PMD and us. So making the regenerative medicine with a time and conditional limited approval. So harmonization the regenerative medicine. MHLW, we are ministry started the project to support the sharing the experience of assessments regenerative medicine products with other countries such as tumorigenicity of cellular products. We're starting developing the international guidelines standards through the technical institutions. So we'd like to contribute to world regenerative medicine in cooperation with other regulatory agencies in the world. I'm sure Japan will continue to participate in international regulatory systems with other agencies. Here is San Diego, California. Very good weather, you know. But in Japan, very beautiful company, very beautiful country. And 2 years after, you can see the Olympic in Tokyo. I'm very afraid, very crowded train or anything. But anyway, here is California. Next time, I would like to say, welcome to Japan. In the Japan word, yokoso, Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nakai. And he explained the sketch of the Japanese regulations. And the next speaker is Dr. Ryosuke Maruyama, who is come from PMDA, Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Agency. He spent a long time as a reviewer for the regenerative medicine, and we we can expect from his speeches and the good input for the future your product development strategies. Please, Doctor.
Thank you, Suzuki-san, to kind introduction. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yoshiaki Maruyama from PMDA. I'd like to say thanks to the Toda-san firm to invite this session. So previously, Dr. Nakai already explained that the Japanese framework for the regenerative medicine medical products. So I just simply making my presentation slide for that PMDA update. I mean that I just show that the consultation numbers or IND numbers and approved product number and what's coming next. So, okay. So this is a third time participate this meeting. So I very happy to be here because lots of interaction for this meeting. So last word, I think I'd like to say please contact PMDA or firm to if you are interested in the business in Japan. Okay, so yeah, this slide shows that the early access scheme for the three typical regional. So, like competition, that which country is first. But of course, Japan also very aggressively creating the regulatory framework. So, two framework is previously Dr. Nakai introduced. One is the PMD Act that named the Pharmaceutical Affairs Law. So this Act gives a conditional and time-limited approval for regenerative medical product. And the Sakigake Designation System is very good system for that company because we also manage as a concierge with which slide shows that which part PMDA is involved in the research and development. So first, pharmaceutical affairs consultation on the research and development strategy. This is actually renamed for that regulatory science strategy consultation. So this consultation menu is starting before starts the IND. So this consultation is good for the company because once applied the consultation, you can continue to the consultation without any additional payment. So and 90% for the small biotech company, 90% is covered with government for the consultation charge. So and after IND, of course, we have a regular consultation menu for that safety, quality, and clinical trial for that exploratory phase and the confirmatory phase. So, and we also involved in the IND review. This is a 30 days IND review in Japan, just 30 days. I think very short for that time. So that means that before submit the IND protocol for PMDA, please consult the all quality and non-clinical part data for that consultation on the research and developing strategy. And also we involved in that reviewing the product for the marketing authorization. Okay, so first I showed that the number for that consultation. So this slide shows that just for that R&D strategy consultation. So PMD Act is started 2014, so that the number is a little bit cheating. But after that, PMD Act is first issued, then number is slightly increasing. Okay. So this bottom number is this one, to accumulate the number of the consultation I told you before. So you can consulting the product as just one applied for the consultation. So okay. And this is a regular consultation number. So this consultation also increasing every year. So actually that 80% is cell product, and 15% is for the gene therapy, and 5% is raw material stuff. So most of part for the consultation is a cell therapy product, but gene therapy also that consultation number is slightly increasing now. So most case is for the gene therapy is a foreign company actually. Then, but for the cell therapy, very difficult to say the foreign company or Japanese company. But I would like to say that 40% is a foreign company for the cell therapy product. So then next is the IND. So this is the number for the IND. So I didn't show that the distinguished gene therapy and the cell therapy, but the total number is slightly increasing now. And most of part is actually investigator initiative clinical trial. That means that still very early phase for that IND. This is just for the exploratory trial, not for the confirmatory clinical trial. So because this is a first notification. I mean that first notification is that I said that that 30 days for that review time. So you can start the 31 day. Yeah. Okay. So marketing authorization product. So already show that we just approved 4 products right now. So 2 products is before the PMDA Act is issued. These 2 products is approved as medical devices, but so 2 products is after the PMDA Act is issued. So this hot sheet is first control and time limited approval product, and Temcel is the first approval for the allogenic cell therapy product. So what's coming to the next product? So that's Sakigake designated product is a good candidate for that approved product. So I think after my presentation, the 3 speakers from the Sakigake designation product. One is Helios, and I think Colorado Leaves, and then Abex. They are present their product later on. So sorry, we already started 3-round Sakigake designation since 2015, and the 4th round is just announced July, I think. So 4th round is until sorry, not July, September. So 4th round is I think that so end of the November is the time for that you can apply it until end of November. So please remind that if you interested in the Sakigake designation system. So this is so I show you that the 5 product is coming. I mean that applied in right now through that website. So first product is autologous bone marrow mesenchymal stem cell for that spinal cord injury. This product is from Nipro, and then applied in the June this year. And this product is really first approval in Sakigake designation product for that regenerative medical product. And then this product is actually last year the Dr. Honmo came and then presented this session. And the second product is from Anges for that HGF plasmid for that criminal limb ischemia. I think this product is categorized as gene therapy because the plasmid vector. So this product will be a first approval for the gene therapy product in Japan. And then actually Kimura. So the CAR-T also reviewing right now. And this product is for that tissue engineering product for that cleft lip palate nasal deformities from Fujisoft Tissue Engineering Corporation. And JACE. JACE is right now they applied for the addition the new indication for the epidermolysis bullosa. Okay. So we just have product, just 4 products, but lots of new application is coming right now, and then hopefully this year or next year, this reviewing the product is approved. So actually very good trend for that in Japanese market, because after PMD Act is launched, and then next year is past 5 years. So we also very interested in that how PMD Act is worked in the whole research and development for the regenerative medical product. So this is just to start for that expanded to this area. So I think lots of product is right now the IND the clinical trial phase. So their product also coming to hold the market very shortened research and development period. And then I hope then if you are interested in the Japanese market, please contact the PMDA or firm. We are If you have some problem, so we can advise to you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Maruyama. And from now on, we will have the 3 speakers. Those 3 companies has already introduced by Dr. Nakai and Dr. Maruyama. Those 3 companies has Sakigake designations to get a very special treatment for the clinical development in Japan. And you can hear from them about their learning or experiences, work together with the Japanese government or PMDA. And their experience is quite beneficial for all the audience here who has an intention to make some work in Japan. And the first speaker is Gil Van Bokland. He used to be a chairman of the ARM in the past, and he is a long-time friend of firm anyway. And please, Gil.
Thank you very much, Suzuki-san. I'd like to begin just by, can we change the display? Way to get it to full screen. I'd just like to begin by thanking the speakers this morning for their comments and for laying out the tremendous progress that's really been made over the past several years since this vision for regenerative medicine in Japan was first laid out and has since been put into practice. I think it's the talks, I think, provide testament and a tangible illustration of just how much progress has been made in the past several years. And I, for one, find this tremendously exciting because I think it is really facilitating a revolution in healthcare, not only in Japan, but I think its reach is well beyond that. I think Japan has really established itself as a global center for what is going on in regenerative medicine. So I'd like to begin by sharing a little bit of just personal experience in terms of what we have seen and experienced over the past several years as we have initiated our activities in Japan, first met with PMDA going back into the summer of 2013, had the opportunity to discuss the vision and the impact around the initiative and some of the things that have happened since then. And I'm going to talk specifically about our most advanced program, which is being developed in partnership with Helios, which has successfully established itself as one of the leading companies in regenerative medicine, not just in Japan, but I think really have global aspirations as well. So at Athersys, our company was started over 20 years ago by a team of us that came out of Stanford Medical School, and our founding vision was really to have an impact on areas of substantial unmet medical need. And we've been true and consistent to that vision from the very founding of the company. Our focus in the regenerative medicine area is really in the critical care segment. So we are concentrating on areas where current standard of care is limited or in many instances unavailable to the vast majority of patients that may have experienced one of the critical care conditions that we are focused on. We're focused primarily in the neurological, cardiovascular, and inflammatory immune areas, but we have an interest in other areas as well that fall into this critical care segment. Now, I think it's no secret to anybody in this room that the world is experiencing an unprecedented demographic transition, and this is particularly significant in Japan, where we're seeing a rapid expansion of the aging segment of the population that is having profound ramifications on healthcare systems around the world and on societies around the world. And I think this chart shows in very simple terms just how big of a problem this is, where we're seeing this, the significant growth of the population age 65 and over, and how particularly significant it is in Japan as well. As the population ages, it becomes more susceptible to a whole range of aging-related diseases and conditions that can have a profound impact not only on the patients themselves, but on their families and on the institutions that are called upon to care for those individuals should they need institutional care and assistance. Now, in recognition of this challenge and what it would mean for society in Japan, Prime Minister Abe, Dr. Kondo at PMDA, the leadership at the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, and a number of the other key institutions in Japan several years ago laid out a vision that has been described today in terms of how it's structured and how it hopes to actually have an impact. But I think this statement from Prime Minister Abe at the Davos World Economic Forum back in January of 2014 is particularly relevant and significant. during that event, Prime Minister Abe stated that Japan is committed to becoming a leader in this area and will do the things necessary to actually facilitate the development and the implementation of these types of exciting regenerative medicine technologies. And of course, much of this was rightly driven by the interest in Dr. Yamanaka's Nobel Prize-winning work around iPSC. But I think as we've all seen over the past few years, the vision for what is happening in regenerative medicine in Japan extends well beyond the work of Dr. Yamanaka and is really a much bigger vision, but obviously driven by the notable and the justifiable excitement about what Dr. Yamanaka and his colleagues have achieved. But I think one statement that I just want to point to in particular was that Prime Minister Abe made the statement that they were going to make it possible for companies to manufacture stem cells in factories in Japan. And I'm very happy to tell you that that vision is becoming a reality. And in fact, we're one of the early examples of exactly what is happening through our partnership with Helios and with Nikon Cell Innovation. And I think that there's much more to come. I think this is going to have a profound impact as we see the transition of exciting science into real-world solutions that can be scaled in ways that make sense and actually drive innovation in some very profound ways. So I think if you just take a step back and look at what has happened over the past several years, there was an explicit recognition by policymakers and leaders and regulators that innovation can drive new and better solutions. And this recognition was critical because I think a lot of people for many years had viewed regulators or regulatory institutions as being part of the problem as opposed to being part of the solution, which I think is a very unfair characterization and not accurate at all. But I think that some very significant steps have been taken to say we can work together to improve the regulatory environment, to expedite the development of these innovative technologies, and we can do so while protecting and ensuring patient safety and well-being. And I think that requirement is critical because for those people, as Maruyama-san has mentioned earlier, or as Nakai-san mentioned earlier, some people have been critical of innovative regulatory initiatives that are designed to expedite development and access to these types of technologies. But I think it can and is being done in a way that is designed and ensures patient safety and well-being. And I think that is something that really needs to be recognized and applauded, quite honestly. So these initiatives went into place, as has been described, just several years ago. Since that time, there has been steady and I would say fairly dramatic progress in terms of the initiatives and the activity, and this has been described in the speeches from this morning, so I'm not going to elaborate on that, but I think that this steady progress is very, very important. We've already seen not only the successful designation in terms of the utilization of the Sakigake system, but also the successful advancement and even conditional or full approval for some of these early products, and I think much more is to come. So our activities have been focused first and foremost on, as I mentioned, on developing therapies that are designed to address areas of substantial unmet medical need. Our product MultiStem is an off-the-shelf stem cell therapy that we are committed to delivering in an industrialized, scalable way so it can become a medical reality and a clinical weapon and solution across multiple different areas. Since we started doing work in Japan a few years ago, I think we've made steady progress. We formed a subsidiary in Japan. We entered into our partnership with Helios back in January of 2016. Not too long after that, the CTN was prepared and submitted by Helios, working in collaboration with us. And that was followed not too long after that by Sakigake Designation, which we were all very excited and proud of. Since that point, we've moved forward with the clinical trial. Helios initiated the trial at some of the leading stroke centers in Japan. And then in late 2017, we saw our first patient enrolled in that trial. We also entered into a very important manufacturing alliance with Nikon Cell Innovation, which again, I think is part of the fulfillment, a significant step towards the fulfillment of that vision that Prime Minister Abe was describing several years ago. And we've grown our partnership most recently just in the past few months with Helios, which I think, again, is a sign of the progress, the commitment, our shared vision about how we can apply our technology and our expertise in areas that can have a significant impact for patients in many different areas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about our technology today. I certainly invite those of you to either attend Dr. Hardy Kagamoto's talk where he speaks about our technology, or my talk a little bit later today, or go to our website. But again, The whole goal here is to deliver something that is truly scalable, is consistent, is safe, well characterized, and can provide a solution that meets the very rigorous requirements that we believe it should have, and that regulators, I think, have embraced and recognized as being a very high standard for regenerative medicine therapies. We also believe that it should be simple and easy to use, and we've spent years working on trying to simplify the product delivery, if you will. The administration of our product consists of 3 very simple steps. Step 1 is remove the vial from the freezer. Step 2 is thaw the vial in a few minutes, turn it from the frozen liquid suspension, if you will, or the frozen suspension of cells in media, and then once that is thawed, transfer that into an IV bag of essentially saline so that it can then be administered to the product using a very simple IV administration. So it's meant to be very simple. It's meant to be something that can be done at virtually any clinical institution around the world in a very simple and straightforward manner. As I mentioned, our primary indication that we're focused on in not only in the United States and in Europe, but also in Japan, is in treating ischemic stroke, which is a leading cause of serious disability and has a profound impact not only on patients, but on healthcare systems around the world. Many people don't realize that it's about 17 million people every year that suffer a first-time ischemic stroke. That is a ridiculous number, and it has a massive impact on healthcare systems around the world. And in Japan alone, we're talking about several 100,000 ischemic stroke victims every year. So it's a big problem. Current standard of care has some limitations, which I think have been very difficult for patients that suffer these types of events. There's been some progress in recent years in terms of extending out the window for mechanical thrombectomy, but what we're talking about with Helios is potentially extending this treatment window out to 36 hours, which would be a major step forward for stroke patients, because the vast majority of stroke patients can get to the hospital in that window. And this is something that we spent a lot of time discussing with PMDA and with the other institutions in Japan that we work with, and I think they've correctly recognized that this is something that would be a significant step forward. They've been nothing but supportive in terms of helping us lay the foundation and do the work that we've been doing to help deliver this. Our partner with Helios, as I mentioned, was established back in January 2016. We've made steady, consistent progress, as I mentioned, through things like the implementation of the clinical development, the Sakigake designation that Helios applied for and was granted under this. I think another thing that people should recognize when they're considering developing therapies in Japan is that Japan is somewhat unique in the sense that they have a centralized and a highly efficient reimbursement pathway, in contrast to what we have to deal with here in the United States, or frankly in Europe, where it's many different countries and many different systems. The system in Japan is meant to be centralized and very efficient, and I think that is an important ingredient to the path to approval in Japan. Now, our therapy, I think one of the keys to success with PMDA and the keys to success in the clinical community in Japan is really providing a deep understanding of how the therapy works. We've been able to do that. We have many, many publications that show that there is a linkage between the brain and our peripheral immune system, the brain and the spleen in particular. One of the most important things that I think has become recognized and is now widely accepted is that the damage that occurs in the brain following a stroke is largely driven, not just from the ischemic event, but by the aftermath, the peripheral immune system, the hyperinflammatory cascade that occurs in the wake of that initial damaging event. And there's been some very compelling publications that have laid this out, and I think this picture tells the story. This is the extent of the damage that occurs just in the wake of the ischemic event itself. This is the extent of the damage that occurs in the wake of the hyperinflammatory response that emanates from the spleen. And you can see it's a very significant contribution to the damage that occurs in the aftermath of that. Long story short, we've published data that illustrates that we can change this. And I think some of the really important data comes from some of the prior clinical work that we've done, in addition to the clinical studies that we're now running in Japan and here in the United States and in Europe as well. But the initial clinical data that we generated was a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, a phase 2 study that was conducted at 33 of the leading stroke centers across the US and in the UK. And what this data showed was that when we administered multistem to patients that had a significant debilitating stroke, that we saw that there was clear evidence that these patients were improving over time. Now, we were, at the first results, the 90-day results, we didn't hit statistical significance. We've laid out the reasons for that. But what we saw was that at the 1-year point, that in fact the results were very strongly statistically significant. And we also saw that when we treated patients under the original protocol within that 36-hour window, that in fact the results were very, very strongly statistically significant. This is something that is, I think, captivated the attention and the enthusiasm and support of not only clinicians around the world, but also regulators that have reviewed the data and have subsequently awarded us with some important regulatory designations. This is just another way of actually looking at this data. One of the long-standing clinical pieces of dogma, if you will, is that if you have a significant stroke, the recovery that you've experienced in 90 days is the recovery that you will essentially live with for the rest of your life. What we have shown is that that's actually not true, that by intervening with multi-stem, we can actually improve the trajectory and facilitate further recovery for these types of patients in a way that I think is pretty self-evident and frankly fairly dramatic for many of these individuals. So I'd just like to close by saying that through the steady progress that we've made, through the very positive interactions that we've enjoyed with PMDA, with MHLW, with the other institutions that we've had the opportunity to interact with, it's fueled more and more excitement about our partnership with Helios, the work we've been doing together, and how we intend to grow this. And over the past several months, we've made a couple of significant announcements. Helios became the largest shareholder in our company. We've also broadened the scope of the programs that we can work on together, so I think that has fueled additional interactions with PMDA and more to come as we look to broaden the number of programs that we're engaged in and looking to utilize these technologies across multiple different areas. So just to summarize, I think that the recent progress and the initiatives in Japan that are focused on regenerative medicine have been very bold. They've been visionary. They've had a profound impact at fueling activity. We're proud to be one of the examples of that. We think that the implementation has been incredibly efficient and has undeniably had a positive impact on stimulating interest, activity, investment, work in Japan. Again, we're proud to be part of that. I think it's evident in the growing number of collaborative initiatives, the designations that have been seen, and the other points that have been made already. These initiatives ultimately are designed and I believe will help patients and their families in a very dramatic way. And I think that's really why we're all assembled here for this meeting over the next couple of days, is because we all believe in that vision and we're committed to actually bringing it to fruition. And finally, I would say that the environment in Japan is very conducive to efficient development and subsequent commercialization. And so for any of you that are interested or have questions about doing something in Japan, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the other speakers to actually discuss that, because we'd be more than happy to share our experiences in greater detail and point you in the right direction if you need assistance or feedback or guidance. So with that, I'd like to close. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Gil. Thank you very much indeed. And the next speaker is Dr. David Lennon from Avexis, and they are dedicated to the gene therapies in Japan and under the Sakigake designation. Please.
That's not me. おはようございます。私はDave Lennon です。Avexis のPresident です。ちょっと日本語を話します。すみません。そして英語を話しましょう。So, I actually have a little bit of history in Japan, and having worked in Japan, I actually am currently the president of Avexis, which was acquired by Novartis earlier this year. Prior to taking the position with Avexis, I was actually part of Novartis formerly, and I actually ran the oncology division for Novartis in Japan. So up until May of this year, I was actually heavily involved in the Kymriah submission and work that we've been doing there also. So have a cell view on this and a gene view on the partnerships that can exist in Japan. So happy to cover both of those topics, or happy to cover the cell topic at any point after the discussion. But for today, I'll focus a little bit on Avexis and what we're doing with gene therapy and how we're approaching gene therapy for spinal muscular atrophy in Japan. So just a quick intro to Avexis. We believe we're a leading gene therapy company in the world. We are largely a US-based biotech company that was founded out of Bannockburn, Illinois, relatively young company, only incorporated in 2011 and IPO in 2016. As I mentioned, we were acquired earlier this year by Novartis, then that deal closed in May of this year. We have 4 sites in the US. I mentioned the headquarters in Bannockburn. We also have our major first manufacturing site in Libertyville, Illinois. And we have a second manufacturing site, which we've just initiated this year in Durham, North Carolina, in the RTP triangle. And then finally, right down the road here, about 5 minutes, we actually have our research facility headed by Dr. Brian Kaspar, who's the original founder of Avexis. We also now have established presence both in Europe, out of Zurich, as well as a legal entity and operations out of Tokyo, Japan. We're partnering very closely in Japan with Novartis Pharma KK, and we'll be working hand in hand to commercialize in Japan between Avexis and Novartis. Our focus as a company is really making sure that we are, what we like to say, breaking barriers to treat the genetic cause of rare and life-threatening diseases. Our main focus is on diseases of the central nervous system, given the tropism of our main technology, which is based on AAV9. Our first gene therapy candidate is a treatment for spinal muscular atrophy. Just a quick introduction to spinal muscular atrophy. It's really a devastating neuromuscular condition. It's the #1 genetic cause of death in infants. It's really a devastating disease where these babies lose or never gain the ability to have functional control of their muscles, and therefore lose the ability to roll over, sit, crawl, and many of the things that would be part of normal development of a young child. I should mention that spinal muscular atrophy is a range of phenotypes, with the one I just mentioned as being type 1, the most common and prevalent most common incident version of SMA, and that is the most severe. Type 1 patients either die or need permanent ventilation in 90% of cases by the time they're 2 years old. The progressive loss of other basic functions like respiratory and swallowing lead to additional support that's needed for these patients, and they will never achieve major development milestones. And while modern medicine can often keep them alive through assisted breathing and NG tubes and these kind of things for feeding, these patients live a very difficult and disabled life. It's highly impactful for the families, obviously, and leads to a number of complications in their care. So our first product is a SMN transgene. So SMN is the putative gene that causes SMA. Mutations in SMN and loss of both copies of the protein SMN1 or the gene SMN1 lead to the disease. The severity of disease is dictated by the amount of a second less functional copy of a gene called SMN2. But we have basically cloned and put that gene into a vector that allows us to deliver this through a virus called AAV9. The AAV9 virus is a non-pathogenic virus, and therefore an excellent opportunity or excellent delivery vehicle in humans, as it doesn't cause any disease. It's also non-replicating and non-integrating virus, at least the versions we work on, which allows us to the benefit of not creating any concern around mutation risk, but also with the issue that in highly replicating cells, then it's not a terribly effective delivery vehicle. So where it has high tropism to the CNS and muscle, these are lower dividing cells, and therefore we get high transduction efficiency and durability of expression over a long period of time. The transgene itself exists as a stable episome outside of the DNA, and therefore, as I mentioned, is not integrating. We have a couple of additional tricks we use with the vector, and one is that it's a self-complementary DNA and double-stranded. This allows for fast initiation of transcription upon introduction into the cell, and rapid expression of protein, which is one of the hindrances of gene therapy in other vectors. In this case, we use a continuous, very strong promoter to allow rapid and sustained expression of the gene. The data for this has been presented at a number of scientific conferences, et cetera. I'm not going to go through that. What needless to say is what we've been able to show with this product is a dramatic improvement in survival for these patients. So as I mentioned, 92% of patients either die or require permanent ventilation by the time they're 2 years old. In our study, 100% of patients were alive in our phase 1 study, and none of them required permanent ventilation. So a complete reversal of the phenotype of the disease based on introduction of the gene. And that's data that you can see publicly. I think the opportunity with gene therapy is often to see transformational clinical results like this, and whether it's with a cell therapy or with gene therapy, we're seeing tremendous results for patients. One of the second challenges, though, with gene therapy or cell therapy is how do we actually produce a therapeutic that has the quality, reproducibility, and confidence and safety and then also capacity of volume to be able to deliver that to the marketplace. And so we've spent a lot of time focusing on how do we make a robust manufacturing system for gene therapy. And so we break our manufacturing up into two concepts, one being upstream and one being downstream. I didn't realize this was animated, so I will click through it. When you look at our upstream process, what we think about that is basically the cell and viral infection and collection of the virus from those cells. We have a number of steps that allow us to do that. We expand cells to very high capacity right now and produce that in our plant in the Chicago area. And then we have a second step in our process, which is really the downstream process of purification of virus and viral capsid for the use of making a therapeutic. And one of the things I like to point out about gene therapy and cell therapy is often these processes, when you think about it from a small molecule production perspective, a lot of these processes would be really well ironed out before you're going to enter into a discussion with health authorities about what your product characterization looks like. The reality in many cases with gene therapy or cell therapy is we're often taking academic product or academically made product that's been done at a smaller batch size and maybe a less robust way, and putting that into the clinic, achieving incredible results, but then trying to work backwards into how we're going to produce it effectively. This leads to very challenging conversations with health authorities about, as our PMDA representative was mentioning, how do we have consultation about quality and non-clinical findings before we actually have clinical findings, and when often those processes are reversed. And so it's an important consideration for as you go forward into any health authority discussions, how you're going to actually manage that scale-up potential, and how you're going to actually translate quality of manufacturing process into those discussions, which are often some of the most difficult and compelling parts of any review. So AVXS-101, we've actually received all of the breakthrough designations, prime designation, Sakigake designation for rapid review and approval. It's the first gene therapy to receive all three designations, and we are looking forward to bringing simultaneous submission to global introduction around the world. I will say that this has been a very productive discussion with all health authorities, largely based on a single center phase 1 trial, and I think it speaks to the excitement that exists in all regulatory agencies for these kinds of medicines. We've seen a lot of pull from all of the agencies to bring forward the data, even though it's limited in nature, and try to accelerate discussions and submissions. And that has been exceedingly true with PMDA in Japan, and we've been after the Sakigake designation earlier this year, we've really been in active discussions about how we bring this forward, and also now are initiating pre-review discussions to gain approval for submission for Sakigake. And our hope is that we are able to do that in short order this year, and hopefully have approval along with other markets sometime next year. So what we see overall is, and I mentioned we had the designation earlier this year. Shortly after the designation, we actually initiated the acquisition from Novartis was announced, and that created some complication of how we actually go to market in different places and how this will actually work. But we worked quickly to create a joint working relationship between Avexis and Novartis Pharma KK to work through the submission jointly, and we're currently in the pre-review process, as I mentioned. It's been really an amazing experience, and I want to thank PMDA and all the collaborators for really very highly collaborative and responsive engagement. We have found that there's a really opportunity to be transparent about in the communication about expectations, and PMDA has been really excellent in that regard. There's been great proactive engagement in preparation for consultation meetings. And we are working on to perform high-quality accelerated responses and reviews with fast follow-up. I would say that the PMDA has responded probably faster than us in many cases in terms of follow-up overall. So it's been really a fantastic collaboration. And I found the same as we went through a lot of the Kymriah discussion, which wasn't Sakigake, but also had an equal amount of initiative by the PMDA. One of the things that I would just highlight for sponsors as you go into Sakigake designation and you think about different things, I think one is really making sure that you do have a local presence and maintaining strong face-to-face interactions. Often things can be lost easily in translation. And as you heard, my Japanese is not great, so we have to always work to make sure that we understand language barriers, but also just understanding and making sure to understand the regulatory process often takes a good discussion and making sure that you understand the interactions and things that are going on. So I really encourage folks to have local presence and work with partners to be in country as you go through the review process. As you're moving very quickly through these processes, it's really important that transparency and trust become paramount. We see PMDA dedicating a lot of time to provide support through the process, so we need to ensure strong communication so that both teams can be prepared and efficient. And I think that level of partnership maybe is obvious in any partnership you do. But I really like to encourage that Sakigake I see not as a traditional regulatory path, but really a partnership with the regulatory agency to reach a conclusion that you're both trying to do, which is approval of these regenerative medicine products. The other thing I would say is this process moves very quickly, and health authorities are trying to do their best to move that through very quickly. So you need to be prepared to respond to requests quickly. That can be difficult if for a maybe US-based team who is working through other regulatory files, et cetera. So you need to assemble the right response team to maximize the benefit of this accelerated review process and not face challenges down the road of not being able to respond. And I think these are all learnings that we had initially as a small company coming into this process, but many things are the same even now as a part of a larger company, which we are at Novartis. I really want to thank the organizers today for the opportunity to speak and share some of the learnings here. I'm happy to have any discussion. I'm actually still also resident in Japan, so if there's anyone on the Japanese side who'd like to meet, I get over there once a month, so I'm also happy to follow up there. Otherwise, thank you very much for the time today to speak. And
Thank you, David. Thank you. The third speaker is Dr. Doug Rosoldov. He comes from Caradovias company. Please.
Thank you, Suzuki-san, and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here with you. And as you'll see pretty quickly, this story of our work in Japan is actually quite an old story that goes back over 20 years because of colleagues that have formed a relationship around a therapeutic that we believe is actually going to change the way that we treat cardiovascular diseases. Now, let's see. There we go. I get asked this question a lot. Why Japan? Why is a little U.S. company going all the way to Japan to do this therapeutic development? And the answer is right here. It's the result of a mutually shared vision that the CD34 cell represents a naturally occurring vascular repair or regeneration cell. And Japan is the perfect home for this project for reasons that will become obvious momentarily. It all started back in Boston, actually, but it was really the creativity of a young Japanese researcher, Takayuki Asahara, who's now back at Tokai University where he's a professor. But at the time, Asa and I were working in Jeff Isner's lab, and Asa made the seminal observation that adult mammals had this vascular repair cell. People talk about how long it takes to do drug development. I like to say that this cell took 4 billion years of evolution to reach this state of really exquisite potency for repairing vascular tissue throughout the body. It really is a remarkable therapeutic unit. Paper was published in Science in 1997, and there's a figure there that just shows the ability of these cells to naturally home into ischemic tissue and repair the microcirculation. So that's the therapeutic target. What this led to, though, was a partnership between Japanese and American scientists that continues to this day. So there are Asa and I both looking a little bit younger than we do now. But that was Asa was the epicenter of this, the beginning of this partnership, and it really, it grew. There are a few other researchers that you see there. One I want to point out is Atsuhiko Kawamoto. There's Atsu when he was working in Boston with us quite a few years ago, and Atsu now is the tip of the spear in Japan of really leading this effort to cure an otherwise uncurable condition of critical limb ischemia. Atsu did some seminal experiments to show that human CD34 cells had this unique ability to repair ischemic tissue. I'm going to show you some examples in the heart, but the same thing is true in any ischemic tissue, whether it's an ischemic skeletal muscle in the leg, brain after a stroke, you name it, even kidneys that have ongoing kidney failure. CD34 cells do a better job of repairing ischemic tissue even than when the same number of cells is contained in an unselected mononuclear cell population. So there's something about purifying CD34 cells that enhances their potency and safety. And so that purified cell became the focus of the therapeutic development program starting way back in 1997, and it continues today. Here's a photo that hangs on the wall in my office in New York, and it shows. Some of you may recognize these scientists: Yukio Tsurumi, who's head of cardiology at Tokyo Women's University; Satoshi Takeshita, who's in Nagasaki; Toyoaki Morihara, who's a chief of cardiology in Nagoya and who's also the editor-in-chief of the Circulation Journal, which is a very important cardiovascular journal in Japan. These are, friends who've kind of banded together to drive this program forward. We'll talk a little bit about data because I think it's important to show you where this enthusiasm comes from. And so what you see here is the 4 studies that have been done in Japan and the United States. And unfortunately, this is not the slide set, the most recent slide set that I had provided earlier this morning. So there's going to be some, I don't know if you can switch to the slides that I sent this morning. that Laura said she substituted in here. That would be great if you can do that. But I'll just show you a little bit of the data here. This is one of the studies that was performed by Dr. Kawamoto. And what he did was to take patients who had critical limb ischemia. I'm showing you a mild version of critical limb ischemia here, with just a little bit of gangrene at the toe. I mean, I can tell you, I say that as a clinician, right? Objectively, it's mild. If that were my toe, I would not consider it to be a mild condition. I think if it's your foot, it's very, very severe. These patients are miserable, by the way. They have pain all the time. They have to take pain medicines to get some sleep at night. And really, they're at risk for amputation. That's the big problem in this disease. A single dose of the patient's own CD34 cells, simply purified, and what you see over the course of time is reduction in pain, improvement in blood pressure, improvement in tissue oxygenation, improvement in walking distance, and wound healing. And here's, this is sort of to me, this is one of my favorite slides of all time. So Kawamoto-san invented this idea of CLI-free ratio. If you're a patient with critical limb ischemia, that is, you have rest pain or a non-healing ulcer, what do you want? You want to not have CLI. And so the CLI-free ratio is basically telling you if you've helped the patient the way that they want it to be helped. And you have to look at the time scale here. These are weeks that go out to 4 years. Single administration. And over the course of time, what you see is that roughly 80 to 90% of patients are permanently cured of their CLI condition. That's regenerative medicine. There's no two ways about it. It's a nice color picture, a laser Doppler image. It's very intuitive. Blue is a cold ischemic foot, and 4 weeks and then 12 weeks after a single dose, you can see that foot start to warm up and that patient's feeling much better. The second part of why Japan, and this has been talked about a lot this morning, so I won't go into the basics, but of course the regulatory environment in Japan is very favorable. You've seen this slide many, many times, and we are of course seeking to leverage this. Really, you can't take it for granted. A very bold decision on the part of Japan to do something ahead of the rest of the world, to change the pathway for regenerative medicines and accelerate their approval and commercialization. So in that context, we were able to design, and this word is very important, in collaboration with PMDA, design a study that would get us there as efficiently as possible. And I can tell you it was a very unique experience working with PMDA, where there was, as other speakers have said, a lot of back and forth so that we achieved the best possible protocol design mutually, which was really interesting. That collaboration continues today. There's Kawamoto-san, and then Takagi-san, who used to work with me at Baxter, and now is with me at Caladrius, and Miyata-san down in Fukuoka, visiting some investigators down there pretty recently. The Sakigake designation, we applied for it. We thought it would be a good thing, but we actually had no idea how good it was going to be. We went to our first meeting with the Sakigake concierge, and it was unlike any with meeting I've ever been to, because the concierge actually had, I say this, with a smile on my, he had homework for us to do. But what that meant, as David just said, is that these, the PMDA and MHLW are investing time thinking about your product with you. And they're giving you the benefit of their knowledge of the system so that you don't stumble. It's really quite remarkable. So yes, the designation system promotes R&D in Japan, driving early clinical innovation. And we, of course, will take advantage of this prioritized consultation system. But the point is this, we have now committed to commercializing this therapy for CLI in Japan first. And I actually think it's not only logical from a business standpoint, but it's somewhat poetic, frankly, that this therapy developed by a Japanese guy in America is now going to be commercialized by an American in Japan. You know, it really kind of closes the loop, and I think it's really a nice symmetry. The last thing I'll mention is that, you know, we are a small U.S. company, and so we're actively seeking partners in Japan, you know, biotech or pharmaceutical companies that may want to also partner with us on this project. So we do have this, this is our baby right now, the CLI trial in Japan. We do have some other CD34 programs in the United States for refractory angina, which is now RMAT designated, and coronary microvascular dysfunction, which is in a pilot study. I'm preaching to the choir here. You know, I'll just go to the punchline, which is that, you know, we all believe, right, that restoring health is going to be more cost-effective than managing disease. And I think, you know, you've seen examples from Gil and David this morning of just what that means, what that translates into, you know, what this hypothetical statement means when it starts to touch the lives of patients. And so, again, I really want to thank the organizers for inviting me, and I'll look forward to having any conversations. If there's anybody that I can provide some help to, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doug. Lastly, we will have the wrap-ups of the session from Dr. Shitaka from Asteras.
So let me wrap up today's session. As repeatedly touched upon in this session, Japanese government has promoted the industrialization of regenerative medicine. And the multiple government authorities have worked together in highly strategic manner and also in a well-organized manner, well-harmonized manner. So, and we firm, being led by Mr. Toda, has also supported the industrialization of regenerative medicine. Pharma currently consists of around 250 companies coming from various industry sectors, such as materials, chemicals, logistics, device, etc. And needless to say, due to the nature of complex nature of regenerative medicine, we need to work with various companies beyond the industries. In that sense, Uemura-san mentioned that one of the advantages of Japan is the opportunity to work with companies which can support the industrialization of regenerative medicine. So we believe through the JETRO system, you can find potential your business partner in Japan to solve your kind of pain points of a business, or to develop the successful ecosystem of your company in Japan to deliver your product to patients quickly. And then Maruyama-san, Nakai-san and Maruyama-san kindly gave us a good summary of Japanese regulatory system. And so-called the PMD Act was revised in 2014, and which was followed by the launching of Sakigake system. And the very active trials has been promoted under those advanced Japanese regulatory system. And now that all over ICH major regions has kind of accelerated the mechanisms, but now Japan is moving to the next step, next stage. Through the actual implementation of our framework, we have learned the lessons, and we have learned the know-how to run our system more efficiently. So we are confident Japanese framework is a workable model. Of course, we are continuing our efforts to upgrade our systems. And in the second half of this session, Athasys, Avexis, and Gladius, they kindly provided us their experience, how Sakigake system is working in their own products. And I heard that the greater flexibility of Sakigake system, and also the great opportunity for more frequent communication with the regulatory agencies help their program moving forward quickly. So they are working on the very, very serious conditions with the high unmet medical needs and without a standard of care. So we hope through Sakigake system their product can be delivered to patients quickly as soon as possible. So lastly, thank you very much for all of our 6 speakers for your interesting and informative presentations. And thank you for attendance and for your kind cooperation. Thank you.